I'm standing in front of 500 people at a tech conference, and my husband just told the world our marriage was fake. Sarah gripped the podium, her knuckles white as cameras flashed in her face. But here's what they don't know. When I married him 3 years ago, he was a fraud with a fake name and $0 to his name. Now, he's worth $2.3 billion. Let me take you back to where this insanity started. 3 years ago, Sarah Martinez was drowning. Not metaphorically, actually drowning in $47,000 of student debt while working double shifts at a coffee shop and doing freelance graphic design until 2 a.m. every night. Her credit cards were maxed out, her car had been repossessed, and her landlord had just taped an eviction notice to her door. She was 26 years old and completely out of options. That's when Daniel Park walked into her coffee shop on a rainy Tuesday morning. He ordered a black coffee, sat in the corner booth and stared at her for 3 hours straight. It wasn't creepy exactly, more calculating, like he was solving a math problem and she was the variable he needed. When her shift ended, he approached her with an offer that sounded absolutely insane. "I need a wife," he said, sliding a business card across the counter. 1 year, $50,000, no questions asked. Sarah laughed in his face. "Is this a joke? Are you filming me right now?" She looked around for hidden cameras, but Daniel's expression remained completely serious. He was probably 30 years old, Asian American, wearing a wrinkled button-down shirt and cheap glasses that looked like they came from a pharmacy. Nothing about him screamed, wealthy eccentric with 50 grand to throw around. "I'm completely serious," he said. "I need to be married for legal reasons. You need money. We help each other, and in 12 months we file for divorce and never see each other again." Legal reasons, that's vague and terrifying. Sarah crossed her arms, but her mind was already calculating. $50,000 would wipe out her debt, give her breathing room, maybe even let her quit one of her jobs. What kind of legal reasons? The kind where if I answer that question, you'll definitely say no. Daniel pulled out a contract, actual legal documents, and placed them on the counter. "Read it, think about it, my number's on the card. You have 48 hours to decide." Sarah should have run. Every instinct screamed that this was dangerous, possibly illegal, definitely insane. But when she got home that night and stared at her eviction notice, at her empty refrigerator, at the collection agency letters piled on her desk, she read the contract. It was surprisingly straightforward. Marriage for 12 months, shared living space required, 50,000 paid in installments, complete discretion mandatory. There was even a clause about separate bedrooms and no physical relationship required. She called him the next morning. "I want 60,000. "Done," he said immediately, which made her realize she should have asked for more. "City Hall, Friday at 2 p.m. Bring your birth certificate and ID." The wedding took 11 minutes. Daniel brought no family, no friends, just a witness he'd apparently hired off Craigslist. Sarah wore jeans and a blouse she'd grabbed from her closet. They signed papers, a board clerk pronounced them married, and just like that, Sarah Martinez became Sarah Park, wife of a complete stranger. When they left City Hall, Daniel handed her an address. "This is where we'll live. Move in by Sunday. First payment hits your account Monday morning." He walked away before she could respond, disappearing into the crowd like he'd never existed. The apartment was in a rundown building in a questionable neighborhood, a tiny 2-bedroom with water-stained ceilings and a refrigerator that hummed like a dying robot. But it was furnished, and when Monday came, $20,000 appeared in her bank account like magic. Sarah paid off her most urgent debts and bought groceries for the first time in months, real groceries, not just ramen and whatever was on clearance. Living with Daniel was weird. He worked strange hours, disappearing for days sometimes, coming home at 4 a.m. smelling like coffee and exhaustion. He'd set up the second bedroom as an office, filled with computers and monitors that glowed late into the night. When Sarah asked what he did for work, he'd say consulting and change the subject. He was polite, quiet, almost invisible. They'd go days barely speaking beyond "good morning" and "there's leftovers in the fridge." But small things didn't add up. One night, Sarah came home early and heard him on the phone speaking rapid Mandarin. When he saw her, he hung up immediately. "I thought you said you didn't speak Chinese," she said. Daniel had claimed during their one pre-wedding conversation that he was Korean American, born in California, barely spoke Korean beyond hello and thank you. "You misunderstood," he said, but his expression was panicked. "I said I wasn't fluent." That sounded pretty fluent to me. Sarah dropped her bag, suddenly aware that she knew nothing about this man. "Who are you really?" "I'm your husband," Daniel said flatly. "That's all you need to know. That's what the contract says, no questions about my personal life." The second payment came 2 months later, another $20,000 right on schedule, but the lies were piling up. Sarah found a second phone in the bathroom once, with a different name on the lock screen, David Chen. She found business cards for 3 different companies, none of them matching the consulting firm Daniel claimed to work for. Once she woke up at 3 a.m. and found him coding something on his computer. Lines and lines of complex software she couldn't begin to understand, muttering to himself about algorithms and frameworks. 6 months into their fake marriage, Sarah couldn't take it anymore. She'd been helping around the apartment, cooking dinners he rarely ate, pretending this bizarre arrangement was normal. But she'd also been watching him deteriorate, losing weight, surviving on coffee and maybe 4 hours of sleep, obsessively working on whatever project consumed his life. One night, she unplugged his computer mid-session. "Tell me the truth," she demanded. "Right now, who are you and what are you hiding from?" Daniel stared at her for a long moment and something cracked in his expression. He looked exhausted, defeated, like he'd been carrying a weight too heavy for one person. "You want the truth? Fine, my name isn't Daniel Park, it's David Chen. 5 years ago, I was a rising star in tech, co-founded a startup that was going to revolutionize cloud computing. Then my business partner framed me for fraud, stole everything, and destroyed my reputation. I lost my company, my money, my name. Everyone thinks I'm a criminal, so I disappeared." Sarah sat down slowly, processing this information. The marriage needed to stay under the radar. My ex-partner's been looking for me, trying to finish destroying what's left of my life. I've been rebuilding, creating something new, but I needed time without anyone finding me. A marriage certificate, a different name, it all helps create a paper trail that doesn't lead back to David Chen. He pulled off his glasses, rubbed his face. "I'm not dangerous, I'm not a criminal. I'm just someone who got screwed over and is trying to start again." "What are you building?" Sarah asked quietly. "AI software, machine learning platform for small businesses, something that could actually help people instead of just making rich people richer." David, she couldn't think of him as Daniel anymore, gestured at his computers. "I've been coding for 18 months straight, living on nothing, pouring everything into this. It's almost ready." Something shifted in Sarah that night. Maybe it was the raw honesty in his voice, or the way his hands shook slightly when he talked about his past, or the realization that they were both people trying to survive their circumstances. "Show me," she said. Over the next 6 months, their fake marriage became something else. Sarah started helping with his project, managing the chaos of his finances, testing his software, researching potential investors. She'd find him passed out over his keyboard at dawn and drag him to bed. He'd leave her favorite coffee ready in the morning with sticky notes that said, "Thank you for believing in me." They'd work side by side until 3 a.m., and somewhere between the code and the coffee and the shared desperation, they fell in love. But falling in love with your fake husband while he's trying to rebuild his life is complicated. Sarah couldn't tell if his affection was real or just gratitude. They never talked about it, just existed in this strange limbo where they acted like a real couple but never acknowledged it out loud. The final payment, $20,000, came and went. Their contract ended, but neither of them mentioned divorce. David pitched his software to 47 investors over 8 months. 47 rejections. Some recognized his old name and slammed doors in his face. Others just didn't see the vision. They were eating gas station sandwiches in their car after rejection number 47 when David's phone rang. "Mr. Chen, this is Marcus Webb from Tech Venture Capital. I saw your pitch last week, did some digging into your old case. I think you got screwed. I'd like to discuss investing in your platform." David's hand shook so hard he nearly dropped the phone. 2 weeks later, Tech Venture gave him his first real funding, $500,000. It wasn't much in the tech world, but it was everything. The software launched 3 months later. Small businesses loved it, intuitive, affordable, powerful. Growth was steady but unremarkable. David and Sarah were still broke, still struggling, but there was hope now. On their unofficial 2-year anniversary, they were in their tiny apartment eating takeout when David's phone exploded with notifications. "What's happening?" Sarah asked as David's face went pale. "Tech giant wants to buy the company." His voice was barely a whisper. "They want to acquire the entire platform. They're offering—" He couldn't finish the sentence, just turned his phone to show her the number, $2.3 billion. Sarah dropped her fork. "That's not real, that can't be real." But it was real. 72 hours of intense negotiations, lawyers Sarah had never met materializing out of nowhere, contracts thicker than phone books. David Chen, the man who'd been living in hiding for 5 years, was about to become one of the youngest billionaire CEOs in tech. The news broke on a Thursday morning. By Thursday afternoon, their apartment building was surrounded by paparazzi. The mysterious tech genius returns, headlines screamed. David Chen's redemption story, from fraud accusations to billion-dollar exit, and then the questions: who is the wife who stood by him? Everyone wanted to know about Sarah, the unknown woman who'd apparently supported this man through his darkest days. Except they had it all wrong. Reporters assumed she'd married him after his comeback, that she was some supportive girlfriend who'd believed in his vision. The truth, that she'd married him when he was nobody, that their marriage started as a business transaction, that stayed secret. At first. David was thrust into a world Sarah couldn't comprehend. Board meetings, press conferences, gala invitations, people who'd ignored him for years suddenly acting like his best friends. He handled it with surprising grace, but Sarah could see the stress cracking him. They'd moved into a luxury penthouse, the kind with a view of the entire city, and somehow it felt lonelier than their tiny apartment. "We need to talk," David said one night 2 months after the acquisition. They were standing in their massive living room that still barely had furniture because they hadn't had time to buy any. "Our contract expired 18 months ago. Legally, you don't owe me anything. And now, with all this attention, with everyone watching, I need to know, do you want out?" Sarah's heart stopped. "Do you want me to leave?" "That's not what I asked." David stepped closer, and she could see the fear in his eyes. "Everyone thinks you're a gold digger who married me for money. My lawyers say it would be better for my image if I married someone from my new social circle, someone the tech world respects. They say our marriage looks suspicious." So this is about image. Sarah felt something breaking inside her. They'd never said "I love you," never officially acknowledged that their relationship had become real. Maybe she'd imagined the whole thing. "No," David said firmly. "This is about me being terrified that you stayed with me out of obligation or gratitude or guilt, and now you're trapped in a life you never signed up for. You married a broke fraud. You didn't sign up to be a billionaire's wife with paparazzi following you to the grocery store." "You want to know what I signed up for?" Sarah's voice shook. "I signed up for $50,000 and 12 months of pretending. Instead, I got 2.5 years of falling in love with someone who makes me laugh at 3 a.m. while debugging code, who leaves me terrible drawings on sticky notes, who built something beautiful from nothing. I don't care about the money, David. I never did. I care about you." "Then marry me again," David blurted out. "For real this time, not because of a contract or desperation or convenience. Marry me because you want to spend your life with me, even though I'm a mess and I have no idea how to be a CEO and half the tech world still hates me." Sarah started crying and laughing simultaneously. "We're already married, you idiot." "I know, but that doesn't count. That was Daniel Park and Sarah Martinez making a business deal. I want David Chen and Sarah Chen choosing each other." He pulled out a ring, not expensive or flashy, just simple and perfect. "So what do you say? Want to renew our vows and make this weird thing we have official?" "Yes," Sarah said, "obviously yes." They planned a press conference for the following week. David's PR team thought he was insane. "Just let the marriage rumors die down," they advised. "Don't draw more attention to your personal life." But David insisted, and when he stepped up to that podium with Sarah beside him, the tech world held its breath. "I want to address some rumors about my marriage," David began, and the room fell silent. 3 years ago, when I was hiding from my past and had absolutely nothing, I asked a woman I barely knew to marry me. I offered her money to be my fake wife for 12 months so I could stay under the radar while I rebuilt my career. She said yes, and we got married in an 11-minute ceremony at City Hall. The room erupted. Cameras flashed like strobe lights. Reporters shouted questions. Sarah felt like she might pass out, but David's hand found hers and squeezed. "Here's what the tabloids won't tell you," David continued, his voice steady. "That woman watched me work 18-hour days and survive on ramen. She helped me pitch to investors who laughed us out of their offices. She believed in me when I was a nobody with a destroyed reputation and a dream that seemed impossible. Our marriage started as a contract, but somewhere between the code and the coffee and the rejections, it became real. She didn't marry me for money, she married me when I had nothing. And now I'm asking her to marry me again, for real this time, because she's the only part of my old life I want to keep." David turned to Sarah, cameras still flashing, 500 people watching. "You saved my life, not by marrying me but by seeing me when I was invisible. I love you. Will you be my wife for real this time?" Sarah couldn't speak through her tears, so she just nodded and kissed him while the tech world lost its collective mind. The headlines the next day were insane. Some people called it the greatest love story in tech, others said it was a PR stunt, conspiracy theorists claimed the whole thing was fake. Sarah didn't care. They renewed their vows a month later, small ceremony, just close friends and the Craigslist witness from their first wedding who David had tracked down and flown in as a joke. Life as a billionaire's wife is surreal. Sarah still can't quite believe she lives in a penthouse, that she has a driver, that people want her opinion on things just because she's married to David Chen. But some things haven't changed. They still work side by side late at night, still survive on too much coffee, still leave each other terrible drawings on sticky notes. David started a foundation for entrepreneurs who have been wrongly accused or need second chances. Sarah manages their charitable work and still does graphic design because she loves it. The money changed everything and nothing. They can afford anything now, but the best moments are still free. Late-night conversations, inside jokes, the way David still looks at her like she's the one who saved him when really they saved each other. Their relationship was built on lies and desperation and a fake marriage contract, but it grew into something real, something worth fighting for. Would Sarah do it all again, knowing how insane it would get? Absolutely. Because sometimes the craziest decisions lead to the most extraordinary lives. Sometimes the person you think is a fraud is just someone hiding from their past, waiting for someone to believe in them. And sometimes, fake marriages become the most real thing in your life. So that's the story of how Sarah married a fake husband who became a billionaire CEO. It's messy and complicated and probably belongs in a movie rather than real life. But it's theirs and it's real, and Sarah wouldn't change a single moment. If you've made it this far in this absolutely wild story, do me a favor. Hit that like button, because you know you're thinking about what you'd do if someone offered you 50 grand for a fake marriage. Drop a comment below telling me if you think Sarah made the right choice or if she's absolutely insane. And subscribe, because trust me, I've got more stories about the bizarre world of being married to a tech billionaire, including the time we almost got divorced over a disagreement about AI ethics and the incident with David's ex-business partner showing up at our house. You won't want to miss what happens next. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the craziest risks lead to the most beautiful rewards.